After the Parks Board was formed in 1899, one of the first pieces of business was an offer by the Canadian Club to place a steel flagpole in the Gore Park extension. The board accepted, and a flagpole in the style of an oil derrick was ordered. It was 150 feet tall and made of steel angles and pipe thoroughly galvanized and guaranteed. The total cost of this imposing structure was $165, and the official unveiling, or rather unfurling, took place on Victoria Day, 1900. The flagpole stood barely 20 years before a plan to replace it arose. In 1921, a combined committee of the Men's and Women's Canadian Club approached City Council asking permission, Parks Board consenting, to erect a cenotaph in the Gore Park extension on the site of the oil derrick flagpole. The plan to construct the cenotaph was initially proposed by John Stephen, president of the Canadian Club of Hamilton, on Thursday, June 23, 1921. The architect who was chosen to design the cenotaph was William Russell Suter. Suter was an up-and-coming architect who was a partner in the Houghton and Suter architectural firm. The monument was estimated to cost between $5,000 and $6,000. President Stephen felt the funds required could be raised by all of the Canadian clubs in Hamilton. The process of constructing the monument encountered many obstacles. Much to the chagrin of Hamilton citizens, the Canadian Club of Hamilton decided to construct a memorial of Canadian Queenston limestone. The Queenston limestone had a shorter lifespan and was considered to be a poorer material to use for the construction of a memorial. Fortunately, the decision was overturned and the memorial was made of granite, since it was a harder stone and required less maintenance than limestone. On November 11, 1922, a Remembrance Day service was held on the site, although only the base of the monument was completed. The cenotaph in Hamilton's Gore Park is a replica of the British cenotaph in Westminster, London. The landmark consists of a huge granite column with an apparent casket at its summit. Two smaller columns are at its side. Mounted on the two columns are carved replicas of the equipment used by Canadian troops in the First World War. The magnificent granite memorial was unveiled at 5 p.m. on May 22, 1923, by the Governor-General, Viscount Byng of Vimy. This was especially meaningful as it was Byng who had led the Canadians to the successful capture of Vimy Ridge in 1917. During the ceremony, 2 minutes of silence was held. All motion and noise ceased as motorists on nearby streets stopped to join the spectators in paying their respects to the soldiers who had died aiding the Allies in the First World War. The cenotaph commemorated the 53,000 Canadian soldiers, 2,000 of them Hamiltonians, who were killed during the First World War. In the summer of 1947, it was noted in The Spectator that the carved inscription 1939 to 1945, to represent World War II, would be ready for the Memorial Day ceremony on August 24th. Over time, several suggestions were brought forward to the United Council of Veterans regarding the improvement of the cenotaph. On March 19, 1953, the Council received a sketch of the memorial with improvements that included bronze posts linked together by a bronze-plated steel chain. The bronze posts were intended to house the badges that were issued to veterans of both World Wars. Other improvements included the addition of shrubbery and floodlighting at night. The estimated cost for the alterations was $2,000. A few months later, these proposed improvements were approved. In 1957, the United Council of Veterans complained that the cenotaph was being desecrated by people waiting for the bus directly beside it. They requested that the bus stop be removed. They blamed the damage on teenage boys on their way home from school. Over the years to come, the cenotaph has come to be the cornerstone of Hamilton's Remembrance Day services. While attendance during the 1970s and 80s was sparse, in recent years attendance has increased dramatically, and the ceremonies have become a central event in Hamilton on November 11th. The eastern portion of Gore Park was dedicated as Veterans Place on June 5, 2006. It was intended to be a center of remembrance for city veterans of all wars. The Gore Park Master Plan called for the renovation of the Cenotaph and a major shift in its placement. It was removed from the site, and during this process a metal tube was found inside the monument. It was determined that the metal tube contained a roll of honor of the Hamiltonians killed during the First World War that was placed there during the original dedication ceremonies. Contemporary newspaper articles quoted R. Lancefield, Canadian Club president of the day, as saying, "This is no empty tomb. Within its depths lie a scroll bearing the names of 1,800 Canadians who gave their lives in the cause for right and freedom." The original tube was placed inside a new capsule with the words, "We will remember them," inscribed on it. On October 14, 2014, the capsule was placed back in the Cenotaph. In addition to the original scroll, it contained letters from Mayor Bob Bratina, the Canadian Club, and the city's Veterans Committee, as well as City of Hamilton Overseas Service lapel pins that acknowledged service in Europe, Afghanistan, and in peacekeeping operations. While the Cenotaph had been removed from its location, the area to the west of the monument was completely rebuilt by removing the last remnants of the famous Gore Park washrooms. They had been originally built in 1913 and had been closed and filled in at the time of the 1983 renovations of the park. When the statue of Sir John A. Macdonald is moved to the other side of Houston Street, the section of Gore Park containing the Cenotaph will be dedicated solely to Hamilton's veterans and war dead.